I have been watching shows on HBO Max for about 2 years now, and everything that I have watched has been a banger. In this channel's short existence, I have talked about or at least mentioned every single one of these, except for the first show actually. I've watched Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, and the very first show was The Sopranos. That show is phenomenal. I am super late to the party, but I have a legit excuse. I was literally a child when the show was on its run. But watching the show about 14 years later, I could see why the show was so popular, and it honestly would hold up pretty well today if it was coming out now rather than from 1999 to 2007. Many people credit The Sopranos for launching the golden age of television, which we are still living through today, and I think it's fair to say that this show did a lot in terms of helping us get shows like Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, Boardwalk Empire, Mad Men, and other similar drama shows. So in today's video, I want to talk about what made The Sopranos such a good show and why it holds up strong today even years later. Because I could tell you right now that I totally recommend The Sopranos for anyone that's not just a fan of mob shows or films, but a sucker for any kind of drama. One of the easiest ways to make a good show is having an intriguing protagonist. And James Gandolfini did a fantastic job as Tony Soprano. The portrayal of Tony makes The Sopranos stand out even from classic films like The Godfather trilogy and Goodfellas, and as much as I love these movies, The Sopranos did something a little different. Rather than just focus on all the mafia highlights like making money, having poker nights or big spaghetti dinners, hot dates, and of course hits, taking out rival family members and others that double-crossed you, Tony Soprano is portrayed as more than just the boss of a crime family. He does more than just call the shots and get people killed. The show focuses a lot on Tony as a family man and as an individual. The show was actually ahead of its time. It had such a focus on Tony's struggle with mental health. He had a lot of stress to deal with. He had issues with his mafia family, he had issues with his family by blood, and he also had personal struggles. There's even times when Tony would have weird dreams and visions that honestly are kind of hard to understand at times, but it was just another way of the show opening up about the complexity of mental health and the way people think. A big premise of the show is Tony going to see a psychologist to talk through his problems and deal with his anxiety, which causes panic attacks and is actually an early catalyst in the show in season 1. The conversations he has with Dr. Melfi were always emotional. I mean, we can all relate to most of what he had to deal with in the show despite the criminal activities, hopefully. My hands are at least clean here. I could relate to the issues with family, the stress of a job, struggles from bad memories and moments when growing up. You could just feel the emotion come out of James Gandolfini, out of your TV speakers, and just hit you right in the chest. I have to give some credit to other characters in the cast as well. Michael Imperioli did a fantastic job as Christopher Moltisanti, another character that has a lot of in-depth complexity. Then you have Steven Van Zandt, who played Silvio Dante, a very memorable character, and Steven actually never acted prior to The Sopranos. He was only a musician prior to the show, and he's also known for being in the Bruce Springsteen band. Then you have Tony Sirico, who played one of my favorite characters in the show, Paulie Walnuts. And then when it comes to adversaries, well, Tony had quite a few of those, but the biggest one of all was Phil Leotardo, played by Frank Vincent, who played in many other mafia movies like Goodfellas and Casino. I could even throw a little Star Wars reference in here too. Jon Favreau actually appeared in a few episodes early on as well. So this cast provided a lot of different things. Some of it was humor, some were catalysts to big storylines in certain seasons, and some just provided that mafia-like vibe that everyone wants to see from a show focused on a crime family. A lot of the show's charm comes from the personalities of these characters and their stereotypes. I mean, what are Italians known for? Eating, being loud, talking with their hands, and always acting and talking with full emotion. And yes, I could say this because I am Italian. I had quite a few chuckles watching the humor and more relaxed parts of the show because it reminded me of the old school Italians that I knew from my family. I had grandparents and great aunts and uncles that I could relate to with the personality types that were similar in the show. Kind of reminded me of those good old childhood memories at parties and other family events. And honestly, anybody can relate to these types of people too. It's not based off of being Italian, it's based off of, just those generations of that time period too. And speaking on old school personalities and ways of thinking, the show did touch on some hot topics. And here's a couple of examples. Tony's daughter Meadow goes off to college and starts to get liberal viewpoints that Tony and Carmela, Tony's wife, don't agree with. And then Meadow also comes home with a boyfriend who is black. Tony instantly disapproves and has disagreements with both him and Meadow. And then in the later seasons, there is a situation that develops where one of Tony's top earners is discovered to be gay, which was a big no-no for them. And to make matters worse, this guy was also married to someone in Phil Leotardo's family. So both families are looking for this guy. Tony's group is from New Jersey and Phil's group is based in New York. This guy goes into hiding, and it's basically a big game of cat and mouse, and it also leads to some high tensions between the two families and kind of furthers the issues that get explored in the final seasons of the show. Eventually, this guy is found and whacked. Now, with a show like this, there's no surprise that people die, right? But there's quite a few deaths that are surprising, and in the matter of which they happen are also shocking. Of course, people get whacked, but there's also suicides, accidents, and just flat-out natural causes that you don't expect. Like there's one guy that literally dies on the toilet because he's having trouble going to the bathroom. So some character demises are very surprising. The show will keep you on your toes. Honestly, all the HBO shows that I've been watching have kind of developed my current opinion of storytelling for other companies and franchises like Star Wars and Marvel. And if you're a subscriber or just somebody that's kind of followed this channel, you know, especially recently in the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of content on talking about storytelling and whatnot. This show stayed true to its tone and knew how to properly balance serious moments and humor. It knew when to be serious and focus on the main plot points, and then it injected other moments that were laid back or humorous at times where it was appropriate. And like with other HBO shows, nothing was rushed. The Sopranos had 6 seasons. Seasons 1 through 5 had 13 episodes each. Season 6 was split into 2 parts, 6A and 6B. The final season has a grand total of 21 episodes, and I believe the average runtime or range of runtime for episodes was literally like 43 minutes to 75 minutes, something like that. And I believe I read somewhere that David Chase even asked for more time so he can round out the ending of the show, and they gave it to him. That's honestly amazing. There's a lot of shows today that rush their stories or stick with 8 episodes and feature 30 minutes of content, and that's been a frustrating issue for me, especially when it comes to, again, Star Wars and Marvel content. And honestly, that last season was intense. All hell breaks loose and we finally get that typical crime family war. No expense was spared either. Many notable people die, and Phil Leotardo is ruthless once he becomes the head of the New York family. It's kind of heartbreaking to see most of these characters make it to the end just to meet their fates because of Phil's grudges and resentments of the New Jersey family. And perhaps the greatest debate in television history comes from the show's finale. The show literally ends with the screen going black, instantly. Many felt like viewers did not get proper closure with the show. I personally felt that way. Like this was a show that puts you on an emotional journey and we can't see how things pan out at the end. You have to sit there and assume. I think that is literally my only complaint about the show was the exact ending. And the ending of the show was actually left up for interpretation for years. It wasn't until the creator David Chase came out in 2021 where he finally revealed what happened. Now don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it. And even though it might be tempting, do yourself a favor and watch the entire show first. Because when the screen hits black, just sit back for a moment, take in everything, and then you could go to Google and see what Chase said. You know, it's not like back in 2007 where you see that happen and then you have to wait years. So just be patient, watch the show, and then go look it up when the credits roll. So like I said before, go watch The Sopranos. Go check out the superb writing, directing, and acting. This is a show that anyone can enjoy. You don't have to be specifically a mafia movie lover to enjoy this. There's so much complexity to this show. There's so much more substance to it. There's quite a few themes explored in the show that are very relevant today, which also makes the show even more interesting to watch all these years later. And it's truly a shame that James Gandolfini passed away back in 2013, because I would have loved to have seen what roles he would have done today if he were still acting. The Sopranos is truly one of the greatest television shows ever created, and I'm telling you, do yourself a favor and go watch it. Thanks for watching the video, I really do appreciate it. Please support the channel if you can by liking the video and subscribing for more. You can also find me on Twitter and TikTok as well at analyzethis_YT. Thanks again for watching and take care.